welcome to this video about the Delta Flyer model, specifically from Cosmic Scale Models. It's a really good kit and it is a resin kit. And so here is how I started to build the model. So the first thing I did is I got all the pieces and I placed them all together to get a general idea of how this model was going to be assembled, because I've never assembled this kind of model kit before, because this is a resin kit, so it's completely different from any kit I've ever used. And then I started to paint it. I had to do hand painting, because normally I brush it, so that's how I normally do, but I found airbrushing didn't give the effect or the finish that I needed, so I mostly hand brushed all the interior of this model. This had the silver for the base bit leading to the pilot's chair, and just the wooden effect on the railings with the white overlay on there. A few bits of detail with the red knob and that kind of thing for on the pilot's section. And yeah, pretty much how the interior was going ahead. It kind of was smooth after I got my head around how it went together. Really easy, really quick and simple. The decals were slightly different. The decals that are provided, you have to cut them out yourself. They're not pre-cut as you get from normal commercial kits. So that was a little learning curve from the very beginning that I actually learned with it, and I eventually I did see that it said in it they're not pre-cut, so that is something to take in mind when you start this model. At the back of the ship, I started to white glue things together, so that's why you see a lot of white glue sort of in the shots here. But there I found that it's a clear white glue when it dries. It's microcrystal clear, and it's a really good model. You can actually do, like when you're doing the Enterprise models and that kind of thing, you can actually do paint that on and have it like a window because it dries clear, which is really good. But I use it mainly to assemble models and stuff like that, which is really good, and I really recommend that highly. So yeah, pretty good. Then I got onto the wiring. The wiring I wanted to keep for this model very, very simple, very basic, nothing special. So I ended up just having a few lights at the top to shine into the back of the actual ship. I had one across on the top for the front, and that was about it really. And then that would lead to the sides that you'll see a bit later. So then after the interior is done, I had to move on to the outside. Now this is where I started to struggle greatly with the actual kit. Fit-wise, that kind of thing, I found was a bit difficult, and getting that right. Also, my painting, when I was using some spray paints and stuff like that, which I have used before, started to react with each other. Now normally when I do a plastic model they don't react with each other, but for some strange reason this one was, and I think it's to do with the resin. So I had to do it a different way than I would normally do, and I ended up using just normal like acrylic paints in an airbrush, and brushed it on that way. So I kind of overcome the problem, which was frustrating, but I got there in the end. And for most part I did actually get rid of most of the join lines, not all, but I was doing my best, because this is the first ever, like I say, the first ever resin kit I've ever used. I'm used to plastic models, not resin. And finally I started to, this is where you can see some of the roughness that I caused by having to respray over, retouch, and the problems I had with paint. Literally it crackle glazed on the actual model, which was a bit of a thing. So I would advise when you do this model, just be wary of what you're using, and take it slow. I mean, I did take it slow. It just seemed to be a real problem with this model for me for that. But eventually I started to like what I was doing. It started to come together. I was putting the detail paint on, and that was really cool. The cockpit was all good. Everything was starting to come together really nicely, which was, a nice reassuring thing. All the wiring for the lights and the impulse engines and the main engines were all fitted properly. That all happened. And then, yeah, it was just plain sailing towards the end here, which was really, really good. I ended up doing a little Borgify kind of my take on it on the top section there. That was several layers of different kinds of paint and stuff. So from afar it looks pretty cool. I know now it's got a see-through sort of thing, so you can actually light that up. But I had the previous model, version which didn't have that, but you know, that's fine. It's the first one I've ever done, and I'm probably going to do this again at some point, which will be a nice thing. And I'll already know what areas I need to really focus on, and what areas I already knew and would be fine, and all go ahead and fantastic. So yeah, all the decals went on nicely, no problems there, really good, easy kind of thing. And obviously there's some blue there which I had to touch up, stuff like that. So it's just literally, for this last bit, was touching up and getting it sorted. Next up was the base, and I used a wonderful machine called a Cricut machine, and that is a Cricut maker that I have, and that's allowed me to design a base with caution, stand clear area, and an exclusion zone kind of thing, and the yellow framing, which was really cool to do. And that cut out on vinyl, adhesive vinyl, and then you transfer that onto your base, and it's really good, simple, easy, and I highly recommend them. They're expensive, but I highly recommend them because they have a multitude of uses, which is really good, and I've started to use them in my modeling, making, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's the base, and I had also added a few extra little bits which you'll see in a few more shots, and these are all the cargo bay storage units and that kind of thing, containers, things like that. I bought an additional kit from Cosmic Scale Models and added that to the base to give it a little bit more interest, that kind of thing. So yeah, the back cargo bay is open, you can see in, the lights turn on in there, that kind of thing. You've got the lights on the engines on the outside, and you can look into the cockpit at the front and see all the seats and stuff in there. The kit does come with figures, little figures, and they're all pretty much the people. So you've got B'Elanna, you've got Janeway, you've got Paris, you've got these people, but I actually chose not to put them in the model. I kept the model just as it was. I just couldn't bring myself to do that, but you know, they are there, and if you want to do that you can, and they are all in sitting positions, so they sit in their relevant seats as they do in the show, which is really cool. So here you see the lighting in the model from the back, so that kind of brings that to life, which is a really nice thing. The lights on the back shining onto the base as well, bringing you to the front with all the engines there, really nice. Loved how it looked, really cool, and in a dimmed room it looks even better, which is really nice. So yeah, all in all, a really good model, and I am very happy with my result for my first attempt on a resin model. So there you have it, my take on the Delta Flyer from Star Trek Voyager. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully you'll see some more builds from me in the future.